great to catch up with you. I love your work. I appreciate you taking a minute out. And I want to begin our discussion with surviving the pandemic. How did you get through the whole pandemic era, and how has it changed you now that we've come out of it?
Yeah, the pandemic was a very interesting time. I mean, I had a great time creatively because I had a lot of time to creatively create. Now, I didn't have a great time, politically in the world around us. That was, completely out of my control. And I think once I recognized it was completely out of my control was when I really surrendered to the creative process. So I wrote a lot of music during that time. Um, was extremely creative. Got a chance to look inward and, as an artist, really figure out my compositional voice, my piano voice. So creatively, it was a great time. Of course, politically, we didn't have any gigs, so we couldn't play for audiences, and live streaming doesn't really replace that sacredness of the live performance. So that was pretty much a bummer, and the world around us, people dying, it was pretty terrible, pretty sad. But creatively, I eventually was able to find a creative rhythm that I carried with me, um, that I didn't have pre-pandemic. So that happened, and I figured out a way to kind of. But yeah, for a while there, it felt like I was in a black hole, and I didn't know when it was going to end. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it was really an interesting time. But I look back on it as I'm glad that I stayed in New York throughout that whole time. So I got a chance to see New York in a very interesting place. It was not nothing was going on, and it was dead, and I'm glad I stayed in New York. So I would say that's how the pandemic changed me, is that it made me more grateful for what I have, and I will try not to take many things for granted these days.
So the latest album, The Southern Suite, came out in October of 2023. Wonderful listen. Talk to me about how you put this album together, what it means to you.
Well, it's just an album that honors my Southern roots. So I was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I titled the album "The Southern Suite." It's the suite of my journey and my experiences in the South, similar to the pandemic, of just my learning experiences, and putting that into the music, um, and putting my compositional voice out there. So every single song on the suite is a song that I composed, in that specific order, and the group of guys that I asked to play on it, from from the from the composition process to the production process to the performance process, everything was to value the individual, and also to value individuals coming together in the collective. And the compositions also exemplify that. With I'm using polyphony, I'm using different voices. It's basically the overarching question is, how can we as a society exist individually with all our different beliefs and all our different views, together in a healthy way. And that's what the album is, and that's what I struggle with so much in the South, because the South is not the place to explore those questions. And I explored that with the constrictions that I had musically. And so it's all metaphorical, but it's all in the music, it's all in the performance, it's all in the production. And I made every effort to make sure the album was aligned in that central question.
So it's your debut, it's your initial shout out into the jazz world. What are you hoping? What has been your hope that the listener gets from this initial album out into the world?
I want them to enjoy it. I think music is supposed to be enjoyed and celebrated.
Yeah.
I don't need people to think that much. Now, it is jazz, so it is by nature somewhat intellectual, and the compositions are, you know, pretty sophisticated in their own right if you were to study them as a student, or whatever. But I wanted the melodies to be singable. I wanted the melodies to be catchable, and I wanted the album to be danceable. I want people to listen to it and to enjoy it at a base level. And if they care to know more about the meanings of the songs, then I encourage them to dig deeper. But at a surface level, I just want people to put it on and enjoy it, and then enjoy the rest of their day. You know.
Absolutely. So this started early for you. Started on the keys at 13. The church was a part of your upbringing. Talk to me about how the actual roots of jazz got into you and became your life.
Yeah. Well, my earliest influence to pursuing jazz is Ray Charles, for sure. It was something about the spirit that he evoked in his music, and we like to call that the blues. and I was attracted to that. It snatched me in, and Ray Charles was a formative influence. I started early, but I technically started late. I mean, I didn't lay a finger on a keyboard until I was 13 years old, and everybody I know now that's all of my colleagues, they started at 2, 3, 4 years old. So I started relatively late. I was a football and basketball player, and that was my dreams were to go to the league, and a lot of my friends actually did. I went to that kind of school that produced a lot of athletes, but I didn't think about music at all. But it was something about my mother playing Ray Charles around the house that eventually I think I sat down and it drew me in. And in those early days, I had a cell phone. I wouldn't even call it a cell phone, but I was able to get YouTube at its very earliest stage, and I would look up YouTube videos of Ray Charles, and I was like, man, I relate to the blues, and I wanted to carry that on, and that led me down a rabbit hole to, Charlie Parker, Bud Powell. The list goes on and on. The rabbit hole of discovery. Once you're in this art form, it doesn't stop. Even today, I'm finding out about piano players that I haven't heard of in my life. So and I am a true student of this music, and I love to learn. And so my earliest influence was Ray Charles. It spiraled from there.
I just picked up a book on the Apollo Theater, and I didn't realize that was his beginning. And they were talking about how he had a friends had to help him get the clothes and the shoes and all of that, and that was where it all started. I had no idea.
Yep, I just learned that today, just now. I didn't know either.
Yeah, it's wild, man. So, what was the first speaking of live shows in the Apollo, what was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away?
I'd have to say um, two things, but Charlotte is not a music city, and so the only way I could consume music, which I made sure every chance I did I could consume music, was at church. So talk about the first live experience that blew me away is the Black Church. That was extremely powerful to see every Sunday when I was growing up. But also in the jazz specific arena, there was a restaurant in Charlotte, a steakhouse that I used to go to every week, and all of my friends would go party, and I would go to this steakhouse. And my mom would take me, and I would hear this jazz trio play. My mentor Lavelle and Charles Craig, all kinds of people would play every Friday at this steakhouse, and that was a pivotal learning experience for me. But Charlotte is not a music city. It wasn't when I was growing up. Now we have our first jazz club, and that happened a couple years ago, uh, right before the pandemic. But before then, we didn't even have a jazz club. So the only way to hear jazz was at the restaurants, where restaurants would want jazz ambience to fulfill their customers or whatever. And there wasn't really a jazz club. We had a performing arts center, and then eventually Lonnie and OC Davis started an organization that we did have something called the Jazz Room, but that came along much later. My formative experiences were at that steakhouse for sure, in the church.
So, what is it that you like the best about being a professional musician? Now that you're in it and this is your life, what do you look forward to the most? What gets you up every day?
The audience. I like playing for people, and I love to study. I love to practice, and all of that stuff is nice. But when I get on the stage and play with people, and the reception that this music has been getting has been incredible, both in on the radio and airplay, but also just the live performance, and to see the expressions and the stories. One memorable one is just recently we were in Tucson, and a lady was 100 years old. What are you doing coming out to a jazz show on a Tuesday night? And you're 100 years old. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And she told me so many stories about, her meeting Duke Ellington and Count Basie, and this it was incredible. It really moved me to tears. And so I look forward to most the connection I have with people, and the power and the force that music has to bring us together as people. Um, that is what I truly look forward to, and I hold those memories dear to my heart.
So, what is a stage out there that you dreamed about playing on that you're wanting to play on? That's A. And B, what is the stage that you've already played on that you couldn't believe that you got on and that it happened?
Now that's a tough question because I've never took the approach to dream on the stage. um, necessarily. So that's a very hard question for me to answer without me, just blatantly lying. But I don't. I think that the bigger the stage, the smaller the stage. Um, for some reason, I've looked at them as all kind of the same. I want to go out and affect everybody that has come to the show, whether it's one person or 100 people.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, the stages that I played, that's thousands and thousands of people, whether as a band leader or as a sideman, have been incredibly important. But also the intimate stages of like playing in somebody's house with 5 people sitting around the piano have also been memorable. So I can't really answer that question honestly as something that I've thought about deeply.
Sure. So why do you love jazz?
I love jazz because it offers me the freedom to enjoy so many different types of music. And then it's all like in this thing. It's like a melting pot, which is how it started in general. I mean, it started as a melting pot, and I love that I can bring my different influences while also studying the true art forms, both in the modern sense and in the history sense. Because I'm a true history nerd, and I love the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. Culturally, I hate it, but musically, I love it, and I love the music that was coming out during that time. I love that I have something to study, and I also have something to look forward to. I love that dichotomy,
Yeah.
and ultimately, I love the creative expression of the individual. Um, when we were recording the album in the studio, I told the guys, I said, I just want you guys to be yourself. And I've experimented with a lot of different genres of music, thankfully. And coming from Charlotte, I've experienced from gospel to R&B to hip hop, and I played with a lot of different people. Indie rock, I played with so many different people, and been in so many different bands, throughout my very short career so far. And I can say confidently that jazz is pretty much the only art form out there from a musician's perspective, uh, with the exception of like offshoots and the cousins and brothers of jazz, like blues and other things. But truly, like this class of genre of music allows the musician to truly be themselves, and the audience actually appreciates that.
Yeah.
Like other forms of music, sure you can be yourself, but if it's not a certain thing, you can get some tension with the audience. But the audience actually wants to see an individual be an individual and to express that individual creativity. It's a wonderful genre. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm really happy here.
I have never heard it described like that. What a wonderful, beautiful way of saying it, because it's so true, man. It's like I've never ever felt like, I mean, I love this art form so much, but I've never felt like, yeah, I don't know if they're in their right light, if they're feigning anything. I've always felt like there was an originality. There was a improvisation that was a part of their DNA, and it just exuded off the stage, you know. So at the end of the day, all of these things that are a part of who you are and all these different incarnations of playing in different genres, ultimately, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, and fans, but you run your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I'm a human being, which means I have to eat, have to sleep, and have to do things that are going to take care of myself in a way that allows my humanity to shine. I have to treat people with respect. I have to come as a human being first, and the deeper I get into this, the more people I meet, the more important that becomes to me. I'm nothing more than a human being, and I am grateful to have a gift to be able to play the piano, but and to write music and to perform and to produce and to do all of these things. But it's all rooted in my humanity, and I want to treat you with respect. All of my audience members, anybody that listens to my music, it's a human thing, and I'm just simply another guy that just has a gift and that was able to capitalize on that gift, to do something important and to do something that brings value to humanity, and nothing more than that. I think the word artist is an interesting word, but sure, I am an artist, but I am a human being, and I think sometimes artists prop themselves to be bigger than they actually are, and forget about the human thing. So I do need to eat. I need to sleep. I need to take the dog outside. I need to meditate and do all of the things that keep me well, because that helps me be healthy in order to play the piano and to write great music. And if I can write great music and play the piano, I'm delivering value to people, and that's truly who I can see myself as is human first for sure.
So as we move into the second month of 2024, the warm months are coming. What's going on with you with shows and things that are on the horizon?
Yeah, we have some good stuff coming up. Some couple more releases coming out this year, which is really fun actually. But yeah, we're traveling, and in March we'll spend 2 weeks in Europe and get to expand our audience over to Europe. So that's going to be fun to tour Europe. I think we have 1 day off during that whole 2 weeks. It's gonna be a grind for sure. But yeah, we're traveling all throughout the year, and if people want to check me out, and of course join the mailing list or whatever works for you, check the website. But yeah, we're traveling and have two releases coming out this year, both trapped perfectly, and it goes to my mind is this. I enjoy a lot of different types of things, and they all have a through line, but I enjoy a lot of different types of things. So yeah, this year 2024 is going to be really really exciting. So super excited for this year.
Right on. Well, I'm going to keep tuning in. Sean, thank you, man. I appreciate your time. Appreciate the music. Best of luck with everything.
Joe, thank you so much, and good luck to the Chiefs.
Yeah, we're going to be ready to go, man.